Once on a quiet evening, I decided to explore an abandoned hospital that had been haunting my thoughts for a long time. The hospital had a reputation, a sinister one, and people said it was cursed. They whispered stories of strange occurrences, mysterious deaths, and unexplained disappearances. I was drawn to the hospital by a mix of curiosity and the thrill of adventure. Armed with nothing but my flashlight, I made my way to the decaying building. The evening sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows that stretched across the empty parking lot. As I approached the hospital, I couldn't help but notice how the windows were broken, and the building's once white exterior had turned a grimy gray. It was like the hospital had been forgotten by time itself. The front door stood ajar, inviting me to enter the eerie silence. I stepped inside and the air felt heavy and damp, like the weight of the past was pressing down on me. The only sound was the soft drip of water from a leaky ceiling. My flashlight cut through the darkness as I ventured further into the hospital. The halls were littered with discarded medical equipment, overturned gurneys, and broken glass. It was as if the hospital had been abandoned in a hurry, leaving behind the remnants of lives disrupted. I explored the ground floor first, my steps echoing through empty rooms and deserted hallways. The air was thick with the smell of decay, a constant reminder of the lives that had once thrived within these walls. With every step, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was like the ghosts of the past were following me, their presence lingering in the cold, still air. Shadows danced at the corners of my vision, making my heart race. I made my way to the second floor, and there, in one of the patient rooms, I stumbled upon a horrifying sight. A dead body lay on an old, rusted bed. The shock of the discovery made me stumble backward, nearly dropping my flashlight. The body was in a state of advanced decay, and the room reeked of death. It was clear that this person had met a gruesome end. My heart pounded, and a wave of nausea washed over me. I had heard stories of the hospital's dark history, but seeing the evidence of it sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't stay in that room any longer. I rushed out, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. I needed to get out of the hospital and report what I had found to the authorities. But as I reached the front door, it slammed shut with a deafening force, sealing me inside. Panic surged through me as I tried to open the door, but it refused to budge. It was as if the hospital itself had come to life, trapping me within its sinister embrace. I felt a presence closing in on me, and the air grew colder, more suffocating. As I explored the dark and winding corridors, I could hear whispers, voices from the shadows, and chilling laughter that echoed through the abandoned hospital. The spirits of the past seemed to awaken, and they were not pleased with my intrusion. I had no choice but to navigate the hospital's labyrinthine halls, seeking an escape from the malevolent forces that surrounded me. The building's eerie secrets had become a nightmarish reality, and I was trapped in a waking nightmare. Hours passed, and it felt like an eternity as I struggled to find a way out. The hospital's malevolent presence seemed to toy with me, leading me in circles, making me question my sanity. Finally, I reached a long-forgotten hidden passage that led me to the basement. It was the darkest, most ominous part of the hospital. The walls were damp, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. In the dim light of my flashlight, I saw a strange symbol on the wall, etched in blood. It was an ominous sign that seemed to warn of the horrors that lay ahead. I had to keep going, desperate to escape this living nightmare. As I ventured deeper into the basement, I stumbled upon a room filled with medical equipment, much of it stained with blood. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and it was clear that some sort of dark ritual had taken place here. My heart pounded as I realized that I had stumbled upon the epicenter of the hospital's malevolence. The whispers grew louder, and I could feel a sinister presence in the room. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and the air grew heavy with darkness. I turned to see a figure, a spectral form materializing before me. It was the spirit of a doctor, but there was nothing benevolent about it. Its eyes glowed with malevolence. The doctor's voice echoed in my mind, filled with anger and resentment. It accused me of trespassing on sacred ground, of disturbing the souls that had suffered within these walls. I was the intruder, and I was to pay for my audacity. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or speak. The doctor's spectral hand reached out toward me, and a bone-chilling scream filled the room. The world around me seemed to collapse into darkness. When I awoke, I was outside the hospital, lying on the cold ground. The building stood before me, just as foreboding as before. I had escaped, but the memory of what I had witnessed would haunt me for the rest of my life. I have always been drawn to exploring abandoned places. They have a certain charm that piques my curiosity. There was one place that had always captured my imagination, an old orphanage. The stories I'd heard about it were chilling, and I knew I had to uncover its secrets. This orphanage was situated in a remote, desolate area. Its silhouette against the gloomy sky made it look daunting. The trees swayed in the wind, casting eerie shadows around the building. I couldn't resist the temptation to venture inside. As I cautiously pushed the decaying front door, I felt a cold draft. The floors creaked beneath my every step, and the walls bore the remnants of children's drawings, now faded. It was clear that this orphanage, once full of the laughter of children, had been abandoned by both time and people. My flashlight flickered, casting a dim light as I explored the dimly lit corridors. The abandoned rooms revealed broken toys, discarded dolls, and battered teddy bears, all reminding me of the children who once lived there. I continued down the hallway and stumbled upon an unusual door, remarkably preserved compared to the others. It beckoned me to explore its mysteries. It felt untouched by time. As I entered, a strange atmosphere filled the room, giving me goosebumps. The room was dimly lit, and an unpleasant smell hung in the air. My heart raced as I made a chilling discovery. Rows of small rickety cribs filled the room, each with a shabby mattress. Forgotten toys were scattered on the floor, their colors long faded. It made me wonder about the children who once called this room home, and why they left their cherished belongings behind. The most disturbing part was yet to come. The room's walls were etched with strange markings, as if someone had scratched them with frantic desperation. The symbols puzzled me, but they added to the eerie atmosphere. My unrelenting curiosity drove me deeper into the building, leading me to a hidden basement. The air grew colder with each step, and my heart pounded. As I descended the rickety stairs, an unsettling sight awaited me. The basement held a collection of old wooden chairs, equipped with leather straps. They looked like instruments of restraint, sending shivers down my spine. The room's purpose remained a mystery, but its aura was undeniably unsettling. It was clear that the orphanage held a dark and sinister history, far more than met the eye. It wasn't just a refuge for orphaned children, but something more sinister, an ominous place for unexplained experiments. The realization chilled me to the bone. The memories of the tormented children seemed to linger within those crumbling walls, haunting anyone who dared to explore. As I left the orphanage, the disturbing history clung to me, and the stories of the past echoed in my mind. One night, I wanted to see what secrets the Millville Mill held. People said it had a scary history. The mill sat by a river, all broken and silent. It used to be a busy place long ago, but now it was just old and forgotten. I'd heard stories about something terrible connected to this place. With my flashlight in hand, I went inside. The place was spooky and dark. The floorboards creaked under my feet. The air smelled old and stale. I walked down narrow hallways, making echoing sounds with each step. Then, in one of the rooms, I found something that would stay with me forever. I saw a door that was half open, and it led to something very bad. A terrible smell hit me like rusty iron. It was before I could see the gross stuff. I turned on my flashlight, and it showed me something awful. The room had dark, sticky stuff all over. It looked like coagulated blood, like it was frozen in time. No windows, no signs of a fight, just the creepy leftovers of something really scary. I went closer to see what was so frightening. The room was full of an awful smell. It was coming from a metal table, all rusty. It was like a table used for surgery. There were old leather straps hanging from it, and a light bulb hung above, barely giving light. I couldn't believe the terrible things that happened in that room. It wasn't a regular mill. It was like a creepy place where people did bad things. It was a secret spot for something terrible. I wondered who the poor people were and who did these horrible things to them. I was so scared. I couldn't just leave and forget about it. I had to take pictures of the creepy room. I wanted to show people the scary things I found. When I finally left the mill, it was dark outside. The sun had gone down and everything felt eerie. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd discovered something really awful that happened in Millville, something that no one wanted to talk about. I told the police about the room, and they started an investigation. They closed off the mill and a team of experts came to look at it. They wanted to find out the truth about the scary secret in the mill. What they found was even worse than what I thought. The mill was a place where they did illegal surgeries on people who didn't want them. The victims' names were lost in history, but their sad stories were still there. The mystery stayed unsolved, a creepy story from a long time ago. I had dug deep into the dark side of exploring old places. I had found something that would give you nightmares. One gloomy afternoon, I made the unsettling decision to explore an old World War II bunker deep in the woods. It had been untouched for decades, and the stories surrounding it were dark and mysterious. Despite the ominous tales, the idea of unearthing its secrets excited me, so I ventured into the heart of the forest. As I walked through the dense forest, the eerie silence enveloped me. The leaves crunched beneath my feet, and the trees seemed to whisper ancient secrets. It felt like I was embarking on a terrifying treasure hunt. I imagined the horrors the bunker might conceal, the malevolent history it harbored. After a while, I reached a small clearing and spotted the entrance to the bunker. It was concealed behind thick bushes and covered in twisted, thorny vines, as if nature itself sought to hide the darkness within. With a trembling hand and a racing heart, I carefully cleared away the overgrowth, revealing a heavy, rusted metal door. It groaned and creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, the air was cold and oppressive, as if the very walls held their breath. The faintest light penetrated the suffocating darkness, casting long, menacing shadows on the peeling, decaying walls. The bunker was a labyrinth of narrow, winding hallways and rooms that stretched into the abyss. I began my exploration, my flashlight revealing the decrepit secrets that lay within. Among the horrors, I discovered an unsettling sight. Skeletal remains of long-forgotten soldiers, clad in tattered uniforms, hung from hooks on the walls. It was as if time had preserved the macabre display, a testament to the bunker's gruesome history. The echoes of their agony seemed to linger in the chilling air. The walls were covered in graffiti, but not the playful kind left by previous explorers. Instead, they bore cryptic symbols and ominous messages that spoke of madness and despair. It was as if the very walls of the bunker had absorbed the darkness of the past. My exploration took me deeper into the bunker, and the whispers of malevolent spirits grew louder. I couldn't help but imagine the horrors that had unfolded within these walls. The bunker seemed to tighten its grip, as if trying to prevent my escape. Suddenly, a gut-wrenching scream echoed through the narrow hallways, and my heart leaped into my throat. I had not come alone. A psychopath lurking in the shadows had been drawn to my presence. I could hear the eerie laughter, sending shivers down my spine. Desperation and fear took hold of me as I navigated the maze-like corridors. The sinister presence pursued me relentlessly. I knew I had to find a way out before I became another haunting tale of the bunker. Finally, I reached the entrance, and with all my might, I pushed the heavy door open. The blinding sunlight spilled into the bunker, dispelling the shadows and revealing the horrors that lurked within. Gasping for breath, I stumbled out into the overgrown garden. I had narrowly escaped the clutches of the psychopath, but the horrors of the bunker haunted me. I was with my friends one night, and we decided to visit the old scary house that everyone in town talked about. It was an abandoned mansion, and people said it was cursed. They said strange things happened there, especially after dark. We brought flashlights and cameras because we wanted to be brave and explore the mansion. We got to the house and the moon was low in the sky, making everything look spooky. We didn't know what we'd find. Inside it was so dark and the air smelled old and musty. We used our flashlights to see, and the beams of light showed old torn wallpaper and creaky, squeaky floors. We walked through narrow hallways and saw furniture under dusty sheets and old family pictures with eyes that seemed to follow us. Finally, we reached the basement, and we had heard stories that it was the scariest part. The air got even colder, and we stuck close together as we went down. We saw weird symbols on the walls, and they looked like they were drawn with something that looked like dried blood. We went deeper into the basement and found a door that had never been opened in years. It had strange carvings on it and a lock that was really old. We decided to break the lock and see what was inside. When we opened the door, we felt a dark presence. It was like a whisper that got louder and scarier with every second. We felt like something was coming for us, and the shadows in the basement started moving on their own. We got scared and tried to run, but the door closed behind us, and the walls seemed to close in on us. Our flashlights flickered and went out, leaving us in total darkness. We heard a voice, creepy and mean, saying terrible things. It was like something evil was all around us and we couldn't escape. We screamed and tried to get out, but it was too late. One by one, our voices went quiet, and we felt like the mansion was swallowing us up. We became a part of the scary stories people told about the house, but we couldn't give up. We needed to find a way out. In the darkness, I reached into my pocket and felt the outline of a key. It was the same key we had used to open the door. My heart pounded as I fumbled with the lock, praying that it might work from the inside too. With trembling hands, I turned the key, and the door creaked open. A dim light spilled into the basement from the hallway outside. It was our chance to escape. We rushed out of the basement, and as we climbed the stairs, the mansion seemed to resist our escape. The walls groaned, and the air felt thick, like it was trying to keep us inside. But we didn't give up. We reached the front door, and as we pushed it open, the moonlight flooded in, dispelling the darkness that had trapped us. We stumbled out into the overgrown garden, gasping for breath. The old mansion seemed to sigh, its curse broken as we stood outside in the night air. We made it out, but we knew we'd never forget what happened in that house.